Hey everyone, welcome back to Wrapped. Each year, we count down and break down our favorite albums of the year in a multi-episode special. For 2020, we're doing a 5-episode special counting down each of our top 50 albums of the year, containing 10 episodes per person per episode for a total of 30 different albums per episode. Each album is graded using a multi-category 5 or 10-point grading scale that judges albums based on their musical composition and sonic level of quality, to their collaborative efforts or teamwork with others, to even their conceptual themes and ideas they present, and much, much more. For this year's countdown, please join us in welcoming our good friend and fellow collaborator, Adam Stansel, to Wrapped as our newest full-time host. After joining us as a featured guest last year for 2019's Album of the Year Countdown and launching his own podcast, Christian Hip Hop Culture, his expertise in certain genres of music and well-worded existential commentary led us to him officially joining Wrapped as our third host. Lastly, you can watch each episode on YouTube to see our faces and screen shares of the music we discuss. If you're listening to us on Spotify, you can hear each of our favorite songs from each album on our lists in full during the countdown to get a better understanding of the music being discussed. Okay, without further ado, let's wrap. Adam, give us your number 20.
All right, my number 20 it's a hot take, I think, at least with the group and the crew that I'm in. And this is After Hours by The Weeknd.
Talk about it.
Okay, hold on. So I don't consider myself a aficionado or anything in this genre or with this artist, and I must also preface to say that I've never loved any of The Weeknd's music. And so,
oh wow, that is a hot take.
Nope. I'm not saying that it's not good. Like I respect it, but I don't love it, and because of that, it influences my ratings on several things.
That's fair.
Like I just don't think that. I don't want to say anything and come across as like I'm like dissing him, because I'm not. Because it still is number 20. Like there are things that are worse. Like there are things that are a lot worse.
Yeah.
But there are also tons of albums that I just thought were better. A lot of the things, at least on my ratings this year, a lot of the things that put albums further up my list was their writing. Like the writing score carried a lot of my albums just because of the kind of mindset that I've been in. And from the amount I listened to this and from what I gleaned from it, I just didn't score it as highly in that category. And that might be just be like me not picking up on some of the things because it's not my typical genre. It's not my typical artist. But yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm dissing anybody, because I'm not. I just thought that there were better things.
That's fair.
That's
yeah.
what I had with Olympus last year. That
Yeah.
you guys both like crapped your pants when I said, I think it was like 30 or something, and everybody freaked out. But no, it's fine.
Yeah,
and I think I know why. Like to counter something like that you talked about, like where you don't know if it was as good of a score, because I feel like it's very much a cinematic album, and if you don't like the particular movie you're listening to, then you're not going to enjoy the whole thing.
Right.
But you can still be this is an okay thing to listen to. It's just not for me.
That's a good way to put
it. And maybe I'm gonna get called a Weeknd hater, but like I don't. And again, it's not because I don't like him or I don't think his music's good, because I definitely think he deserves to be in the Grammy nominations. But rip. But I've never like listened to a Weeknd project and then been like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to listen to that again. You know what I mean?
Okay. I mean, yeah, it's fair. Like I feel that way about Folklore. Like I didn't like the movie, essentially. I didn't like the sound of that album at all. And so
save it.
That's I think we all feel like that way about certain albums. Like people are like, oh, I love this, and you're just like, I don't. Is there something wrong with me? No, it's just might not be for you. Like
taste.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Just while we're dropping hot takes, that's how I feel about Harry Styles' album.
Yeah,
I mean that's fine. Yeah.
everyone has like that sound or that music or
I'm
that
sorry.
album.
I
People
feel
are just
like I
like,
just committed a sin in some people's
No.
eyes, but
but
like
You're
yeah,
fine.
but
I wasn't
that's what
I
how
wasn't
Adam.
into it.
Yeah, that's how Adam feels about The Weeknd. That's how I feel about most of Taylor Swift's discography, but particularly for Folklore. Like, there's just something it just doesn't click for you. It's an opinion subjugated personal thing. I feel.
Cool.
Ryan, do you have a hot take for your number 20?
No, not really, but it should be very familiar.
Okay.
Um, so this is Drop Frames Volume 2, the final dropped frames that is going to appear on this list because it is the last drop frames in existence. So this is the second volume of his beat tapes that he has released over the course of 2020. And this is by far the best one. Like if you ever just need something to put on in like not just as background music to like actually like keep you awake, this will take you on a journey, and it has little like um kind of duets of songs that go together. Like Side Scrolling and Dungeon Crawler both sonically fit very well.
And they're
The
both
flow.
video game references as well.
Yeah. The way this album flows together is absolutely amazing. I feel like this was him just kind of showing off how he can take weird sounds and then combine them with actually being musical. And that's always really cool to watch in an artist. My favorite song is Dog Whistles. I was actually listening to it right before we started recording, because there's just a way that everything moves throughout the song that takes you on a journey from point A to point 3 trillion. And that makes sense if you listen to it because there's a very kind of odd switch that goes back around um, throughout the song, and it's really cool. But if you just want to hear in like an insane live, just 4 minutes of drums, listen to Channeling Part 2. I believe Dan Mayo is the guy that played drums on it. I'm a bad podcaster and didn't look it up. I apologize. But throughout the song, you can hear him playing every hit, and it's so fast and so intricate. It's kind of unbelievable to listen to. And it kind of at the end of the song, there's the one last hit, and then you just hear them both like deep breath out and start laughing, like, "Oh, I can't believe we just finished that." And so it's really cool to listen to. I think you both would really enjoy it just to warm up. I know it's good gaming music, and it'd be good for your drives, Colton, because I know you like to zone out and just contemplate the dramatic things in life. So
Man, whenever I do like drive again, I feel like because of this year, like I've driven like to my parents' place like a
yeah,
couple of times. But yeah, that's a great point. It's just like
yeah,
driving music, zoning out music, honestly, work music.
yeah. Honestly, if you're cleaning, just like pop your headphones on and listen to this, and like we'll listen to all three of them because they don't take very long to listen to. They're very easy, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like very very cool to listen to. Like you have your whole like own 36 song playlist basically of just these three. So definitely highly recommend.
Sick.
All right. My number 20 is Studying Abroad by Masego. So this is just a short EP that he recently put out. And let me just start this off with, if you're not tuned into Masego yet, I need y'all to get on that. Because this man is like game changer. I remember I first found him when Genius did like their like in studio concert series that they do, and he was on it. I didn't know who he was, and I just see a dude playing a saxophone, and then he loops it with a looping machine, and then he starts playing the looping machine, and then an 808, and then some drums, and then starts singing, and then starts rapping. I was like, hold up, wait, this man literally just built a song from the ground up as an entire like band, but as one person, he's a genius. He has an album called Lady Lady from I think 2 years ago. That's really good. This is kind of the follow-up to that. Maybe there's going to be a full album at some point, but Studying Abroad, it's very much this idea of I actually didn't go anywhere because it's 2020. I couldn't travel, but you can travel through the sound of music, and like each song is around the idea of a different place or location, and thus the genres that might be from there, whether it's like reggae on like Silver Tongue Devil. There's all kinds of great ideas behind this piece. But overall, super strong in production. I gave this a 9.2. I also just want to shout out Don Tolliver because him and Masego like really worked
That was a
tightly
great
together.
connection.
Yeah, it's a good connection. And it's the idea too of like being single or what am I doing? Because there's a song called Polygamy, but then he talks about like monogamy, mystery lady. So it's like this back and forth, black and white kind of world that he's trying to navigate. But really fire. Everyone needs to go check out Masego, but def check out Studying Abroad. It's 6 tracks, 16 minutes. You can get through it easy.
There's also a great live performance of it that he did on YouTube.
Yeah, I saw that. It was dope.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And it's interesting to watch him move around the stage because he is so tall. And just
and he carries that like massive like water canteen because he talked about
yeah.
he talked about on GQ. He's like,
it's amazing.
He's like, water is life. Like, drink your water. And I'm like over here, like, yes, Water Kings, let's go.
Wow.
And like the band that he gets to play the album is incredible.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And also his live ad libs of things are just
hilarious,
off the chain. But definitely cool. You can tell he really enjoyed making this music.
Yeah,
and so it's really, really cool to watch.
It's dope.
We'll talk about it again. Don't you worry. Because I have lots more thoughts.
All right. My number 19 is Restoration by Lecrae. So this is another entry from a CHH artist. This is arguably the CHH artist. If you ask people if they've ever heard of Christian rap, this is usually the person they talk about. And a deluxe version did come out, but I'm speaking more specifically to the original release. Deluxe, people went crazy with the deluxes this year.
They really did.
Like, honestly, like everything has a deluxe, which I guess is like, hey, I've been stuck inside, so I've written more songs, so I'm just gonna throw them on this album as an extra or whatever. But he dropped a couple of singles entering into it with Set Me Free was one, Deep End was one, and there was another single, wasn't there?
I think Zombie was a single.
Yeah.
Oh, the song with John Legend.
Oh, did
Drowning?
It come out as a single?
Oh, yes,
Drown. Yeah,
did.
no,
Drown
did come out. Yeah. Anyway, I really like the idea of this album because he's kind of been moving from the youth group church representative to a more legitimate space in rap and in culture, which is great. I love that he's kind of moved into that space. And he kind of started that move with, I would honestly say, Anomaly, the album, I think 2 albums ago.
I go with Church Clothes.
Yeah, mixed. Yeah, those are mixtapes. I wasn't really. Yeah, you're right though. Church Clothes would have been the first kind of departation from his traditional sound, I guess. But this one takes a step in the, like, I don't want to say the positive direction, but like in the growing out of brokenness, because like All Things Work Together, his last album, was very like frustrated sounding, which I'll go ahead and tell you is my favorite Lecrae album, and I don't think that that'll ever change, at least from what I know now. All Things Work Together was really good, and it showed a lot of the brokenness that he felt, a lot of the contradictions within the church, a lot of the things that happened to people of color in the church and in the United States. And I think that this is a move in like him trying to grow out of that, which is great. And I love that for him. I just sonically, I did not like this album as much. I think the concept's great. I think the content's great. I just didn't like the music quite as much. The best thing to listen to, I think I really like the Saturday night into Sunday morning little saga there with Kurt Franklin. Featured on Sunday morning and Jazzy on Saturday night. Has a lot of good features on this album. John Legend's, of course, going to do John Legend things. You got Marky Basie, which really came out of left field, although not really, because he had been featured on an Andy track not too long ago.
I think that's the John Bellion thing.
What do you mean? Oh, you think like John
That-
hooked him
Yeah,
up with?
he
Okay,
he linked him up. Yeah.
you're probably right. And then the BJ the Chicago Kid feature down the list too.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all great features, which really did good things for the rating of this album. I don't know. I just think that I don't think I'll ever like a Lecrae album as much as I liked All Things Work Together.
I agree.
Just because of the what it meant to the culture and the time. Like, it was monumental that someone of such stature and someone of such a reputation would come out and say all these things, to the point where he got a lot of hate from the church because of it. Which, that's nuts to me that many people are like, yo, he's doing, I don't, it kind of almost kickstarted me into thinking a lot of the things that I think now as well. And I think that Lecrae, not to say he's on the tail end of his career, I don't think he is, but he also is diversifying himself in a lot of ways. He's going off into management. He is part owner of the label. He manages a lot of stuff with that. He does a lot of business things. He has like clothing line stuff. He has like all these other things. And he's really trying to juice up these younger artists too, because he does features with like Holvey and RG and like all these other people, like trying to gas them up because they're the future, so to speak. And they kind of carry his message a little bit further to different groups of people and different crowds that might not want to listen to a big head like Lecrae. I don't know. I think that it's good. Restoration was good. I just wasn't quite my favorite Lecrae album. So.
I 100% agree, but I will say the two songs that he did for the Miles Morales game slap. Oh man, I played it, and when they come on as you're swinging as him, I'm just like, wait a second, this is Lecrae. I was like, this is crazy because it's a moment, it's a cultural moment, like it just piece de resistance. But
it's really good.
I 100% agree with everything you said about that album, because I didn't make my list because I felt that way. It didn't make the 50 cut for me.
I still think the beat for Deep End just goes absolutely crazy.
It does. It does. I agree.
Yeah, and like some of the beats on there, like the Gavi beat.
Who produced? Do we know off the top of your head who produced Deep End?
I don't.
I don't off the top of my head. I do really like.
It's fine.
I really like Set Me Free, despite the 1K or the YK.
The YK, yeah, no, I like Set Me Free a lot because that Gavi beat, as I said, goes crazy.
Yeah, YK Osiris. What a guy!
Just YK Osiris.
What a guy!
Don't even get into it because Ryan's gonna go on some whole tangent about YK, and we don't really need to be doing all that right now. We're trying to get through these albums.
All right. All I'm gonna say is that this man had the weakest. Like, you know those moments in songs where the artist just comes in like over everybody with this really big note, and you're just like ready for it. Worth It has the weakest moment of that of all time. Like if you listen to The Weeknd come in and like Real Love, where he just says "ooh" for 2 minutes over everything, and you're like, this is so powerful. When YK Osiris does it, one, it's not nearly as high, and also it just sounds like he looked at the microphone and said, ooh.
Yo, okay, I just
it's
found
just
out
bad.
The producer is a guy named Anthony Gardner, also known as Mr. Right Now or Hollywood, and he's from Alabama.
No way, really?
That his only credits on Genius are Deep End. That's the only credit on Genius.
That's crazy.
That's really cool.
That's really dope. We're looking out for more work from him then.
Shout out Alabama.
Oh wait, he also did a song called Tropics for a person named Trans Violet.
No idea who that is.
Interesting.
Anyway, all right, moving on. Ryan, what's your next thing?
So my next album is Folklore.
Oh boy,
there it is.
By the one, the only Taylor Swift.
Oh boy, I didn't expect to talk about it so soon.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. So most people are going to be surprised that we're talking about this at all. Because
especially
on your list.
Especially last year, if you listen to our podcast, we counted down, and on the first episode, this man put Lover at like 98.
I mean, yeah, it was bad, but this album was amazing. This album had my favorite just release moment, like
Oh,
of the year.
Big facts.
Because like I feel bad for him, but she high key messed up my boy Logic's #1 album because like I was looking at everything that was coming out that week, getting ready, and I was like, all right, here we go. This is Logic's moment. It's his last album. It'll be a really good way for him to go out and retire on that #1. And then like Thursday night comes around and I'm just scrolling on Twitter and I just go to my home screen and refresh that thing and I just hear Taylor Swift just released an album and I just said, well, we know who's going to be #1 in about 5 minutes, and surely it was. And I was like, I'm going to listen to it because it looked different and I was like, I'll give it a chance because I'm going to listen to every album she releases. I haven't listened to Evermore yet, but we'll get there. Y'all got a year. But I listened to this and I really ended up enjoying it. It's not what I expected to hear sonically, and I think that's what caught my attention the most.
yeah.
I have a really soft spot for Bon Iver.
Shout out Bon Iver.
That's real.
And I really enjoy his music. But I thought that this was some of her best writing ever. And I feel like it's really cool to hear something that's not like for the radio necessarily. It was just like something that she wrote to write, and it's really cool. And I always I mentioned it last year. I was like, when she makes an album that I enjoy, I will praise the shit out of it. And anytime somebody asks me like, do you like Taylor Swift, I'll say no, but I love folklore. And then they'll be like, you love Taylor Swift, and I'll be like, stop pushing it. But like I really enjoyed this. This is not something that I listen to like continuously. Like I listened to it once and was like, damn, this is really good. And then I listened to it probably 2 more times since. But I like the aesthetic of the album cover a lot. Because black and white, I'm a sucker. It's fine. I'm me. But my favorite song was Illicit Affairs.
Ooh, me too, brother.
Hey,
Ooh, such
let's
a good
go.
song.
Great minds. But no, I listened to it. That's the one that stuck out and got stuck in my head the most.
Yep.
But I think it's a great album, and I'm gonna like stave off because I know it's very high for you. But I think that this is a very good album, and I enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to listening to Evermore. And you can quote me on that for once.
All right.
But I really enjoyed listening to this album from Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I'll save most of my stuff for when I talk about it a little bit later on. But just to kind of in short, I think that this album represents a kind of a jumping point for her career to shift, because she's had a lot of shifts in her career. I used to not hate on her, but I used to kind of knock her a little bit because I never really liked country, but I didn't respect that she kind of like put country aside and moved into pop. Like I didn't really like the way that the what's the word? The not the metrics, but the optics. I didn't like the optics of it. Like it's like I want to be more famous, so I'm going to move into a genre that makes me more famous.
Okay.
But I think now, hearing some of the lyrics on this album, especially, and even Lover to some extent, there's a lot that we didn't know about behind the scenes at the time because she was very young. And I think same thing that happens to a lot of really young artists is they get taken advantage of by labels and by managers. And so like the whole issue with Scooter Braun and everything, I think that had a big role to play. And now that she's out from under that and she's on the other side of it, I think this album and Evermore by extension, which we won't talk about this year, but those two together are really a representation of, I think, who Taylor is, not who people wanted her to be.
That's a good way to put it.
Which is really cool. Like and I'll say more about that in a little bit, but
I like that.
On to the next one.
All right. My number 18 is The Slow Rush by Tame Impala. So, like, Kevin, which is like the real name of the guy who's quote unquote the lead of Tame Impala. Tame Impala has as many people as Panic at the Disco does these days, which is one person, but there's always a touring band, right? There's always a collective people who help make the album or the session musicians and stuff. So Kevin Parker, this man does not make bad music. Like he just doesn't. His production is crazy. Like he produced on Astroworld by Travis Scott, and then he produced on a song for After Hours by The Weeknd. Like there's a lot of crazy production outside of his genre of like kind of like Australian, New Zealand psychedelic rock, basically. And this is
live
like
shows go crazy.
Live shows go crazy. Yeah, his live shows. I've seen some of the stuff on YouTube. This is the first time I've really delved into his like catalog this year. Was when this was coming out. I was really up on the singles with it. I was like, these singles are good. Like I remember when he released. It actually was a long time ago that he released Borderline. Because it was like March 2019. It was like so long ago. It was a very long, arduous process to get him to finish this album because it came out pretty early, pretty long ago. It was in February, February 14th of this year. I gave this a 9.3 ultimately, just because I thought the cover art and the overall marketing artwork that he gave to all the singles with this idea of like, it's called a slow rush because, and like you see sand coming in through this like mansion or something, this idea of like slowing down time, of life always feels like it's going by so fast. And I think what's weird is like this album came out and then COVID happened. And I think that a lot of people felt the idea of like, I feel like I'm in a slow rush. I feel like everything's in a rush, but it's going by really, really slowly. So it was weird that it like came out and then a month later, like COVID happened. And it was an album that stuck with me because of what happened this year. I felt like I was stuck in exactly this Groundhog Day world that he built through 12 tracks in almost an hour. Super seamless. There's not really any features. It's just him and his collaborators basically just going off for an hour. And it's something that I think you can just throw on repeat and just loop it. I really, really like the song Lost in Yesterday, as well as Posthumous Forgiveness.
I was about to say Posthumous Forgiveness is really good.
Yeah, Posthumous Forgiveness
I like
as well.
the name of that a lot.
Yeah, I know too. The names of all these tracks: Tomorrow's Dust, One More Hour,
Lost in Yesterday,
Instant Destiny. Like this idea of like
breathe deeper,
of time and time is in the sense of fast or slow, tomorrow, past, present, future. Really cool. Super dope album. Even if you're not really into like psychedelic rock, because this is not my bag at all. But I really like Tame Impala, and I think this might be one of his strongest bodies of work as a whole. This one and the last album he did, I forget the name of it. I think Currents. Those are the two best albums he's made, in my opinion. But Tame Impala fans might come after me, but I'm not trying to have that talk, that smoke.
All right. So my number 18 is kind of a weird one. The idea of the album is kind of weird, and it's called Astronomy Volume 1 by Sleeping at Last, which is one guy, but he goes his like artist moniker is Sleeping at Last.
Oh man.
This guy, his real name is Ryan O'Neill. I've followed him.
The Ryans.
Yeah, I've followed him pretty closely for a while, just because I really like his, not like his brand, but like his style of writing and music and personality. And he has a lot of these things. A lot of his music and a lot of his albums are focused on either things that are happening in the world or things that happen inside of us, like our personalities and things like that. So he has a big thing for space. He always has. And he has a podcast that he talks about all the songs on. He always has loved space. And so this album is more of a collection. All these songs are written about or around or centered on astronomical events. So if you look at the names of the songs, it has the date of that event, and then it has what it is, and then the song is like centered around that or inspired by that in some way. So like the first one, going all the way back to 2017 is the total solar eclipse. And then Cassini. Saturn is actually its own thing. It's from another album, another body of work that he has called Atlas One, or Atlas Two. Sorry, no, it's Atlas One. I'm right. And that came out a couple of years ago. But he kind of took all these songs that he'd made about these astronomical events and then threw them all into one body of work and called it Astronomy Volume One. When I say that this dude is probably one of the best songwriters I've ever heard in my life, like it's nuts. Like the things that he can, like the inferences and the lyrical like rhyme schemes don't necessarily like make sense. Like none of this is pop music, none of this is whatever. It's all very lyrical, it's all very poetic. Just to give you an example, so Saturn is like insane. So the verse 2, and there's not very many words in the song in total, but verse 2 of the song Saturn, it's all it says. It says, "With shortness of breath, I'll explain the infinite, how rare and beautiful it truly is that we exist." It's like, it's also like outwardly thinking about like space and the universe and like the creation of it all, and then but so introspective, and to think like, oh my gosh, like this is all so grand, but then like we also exist. Like how crazy is it that we exist at the same time as all this other stuff that's going on? It's super cool.
How similar sonically is it to the Enneagram album?
I mean, most of his songs sound really similar. Like he has, it's very, very acoustic. Like he records at his house with a piano, and that's pretty much it. It's all very classical pop type stuff, like very piano led. With his vocal timbre is really like high tenor, and so he has kind of like this unique tone to his voice. His collaboration, like his coordination with other artists and stuff, is also really high. He doesn't put credited features on, but he brings in, like anytime he uses like strings or another instrument or drums or anything like that, he brings people in to do those things, and he's very good at coordinating all that stuff together. Composition is really strong for him too. Like he's a very good writer of music because he has all these visions and things like that. Similar to like people like John Billion and things like that. They can just like see what they want it to be and then make it that through the help of other people. But I really recommend listening to this project. It's going to feel weird because it doesn't, like, track flow is weird because they're not intended to flow. Like it's not like an album flows like that. But they all are related to the events. And so like if you kind of get yourself into this picture, like imagine you're going to an art gallery and like the room that you're in has a theme to it, but each painting is very different.
Right.
And so you go from painting to painting, and you look at that painting as its own unique piece in the same theme as some of the others, but they all are very unique. That's kind of how I view this album. And that's how I view a lot of his work. A lot of his stuff's like that.
That's fair. I like that analogy a lot, actually.
Yeah, I just think that like it's, you can't say that they're supposed to be like flowing cohesively because they aren't, but they are very similar in some ways.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Also, listen to his Enneagram work if you haven't. If you're into the Enneagram and you know what you are and all that kind of stuff, check out the Enneagram songs that he did last year. They're crazy.
All right, so my number 18 is "In a Dream" by Troye Sivan. So I listened to this under duress by one of our good friends, because we were playing Destiny together, and he said, "Hey, this just came out," and I said, "Okay," and then he said, "You should listen to it," and I said, "Okay," and he said, "You should listen to it right now." So he made me stop what I was doing and go listen to it. And I really, really enjoyed it. I think that this album or this project, because I feel like it's more EP, or it is an EP. It says it, but like I feel like this is my favorite thing he's ever released because it's the darkest sounding, and Troy to me is very bubblegum poppy sometimes. And I know I'm just insulting half of his fan base, but I feel like this was a step away from that. and I really enjoyed hearing him kind of be more like sonically mature in a way to me. Um, I also just like I'm an angsty person, so I like angst and hearing angst. I always have, I always will. And so I thought it was cool that he kind of got in his Blackberry bag a little bit. And also like it was like could cry just thinking about you is a very Blackberry title. Rage Your Teenager is a very Blackberry song. Um, which is not a bad thing because they're all great songs. Which I like. Rage Your Teenager is my favorite out of all of them. And I really like the picture on the cover art. I thought that was very otherworldly, and it was very fitting of the album.
Yeah.
Did you listen to, because they did Easy with Mark Ronson and Casey Musgraves, like recently came out, like a remix essentially?
I did not.
It's good. It's a vibe.
Did not know it came out.
Shout out
Okay.
Casey Musgraves. She be doing
Yeah.
all these things with non-country artists.
Yeah, like her and Harry,
Diversity.
her and
Yeah.
Trey, other kind of people with that her Christmas special. But yeah, I know you should check out the Easy remix. It's super dope.
I will for sure.
All right, my number 18 is a revisit to featuring Ty Dolla $ign by Ty Dolla $ign. So this easily wins best like title of an album for me, just because like what? I think it's hilarious. And at first, Ryan, everything you said about this, I thought was really interesting, and I didn't necessarily disagree with anything that you said about it.
Yeah.
Because like I do agree, Beach House 3 is my favorite Ty Dolla $ign project. This is maybe my second or third. It's really tight with Free TC, which was his first album. I have it on vinyl, so I'm like, it's a good album. I don't know. I really bop with this. It kind of does give off that vibe of the Ed Sheeran No. 6 collaborations. But the fact that he explained like, oh, I see it as I mixed it, or I produced it, or I wrote it, or I did this, like flexing every single muscle in his musician ability. I was like, that's pretty fire. Like to be able to say like, listen, if I wanted to, I could have made this album entirely by myself minus the features, and it would have sounded just as good because he just that skilled with the musicianship. I do agree it's a little long, like 25 songs, 1 hour. It moves fast because the songs are usually shorter. And I did give it really good points because the flow of the album as a whole, like I think like intro through like, about the 8th or 9th track in, it just feels like one song. Like every single outro becomes the next intro where there's a familiarity with an instrument. And that impressed me, where he was just like, I am stringing these together. Like the stitches are pulled tight. Even though it doesn't sound like the same song, they sound different enough. And yeah, there's a lot of features on here, and sometimes I knock on artists where I'm just like, I like your features, but don't get too bogged down in them where they can kind of take over you. And like this does teeter towards that direction of maybe there's a few too many features, maybe there's a couple of tracks or features you should have cut. But honestly,
there's also not like a feature like the John Mayer feature from Beach House that just came out of nowhere.
That's a good point too. There's a lot of these artists he chose are people he's either worked with before, or they're in the R&B or pop or rap space. So I wish they were a little bit more left field at times. But even with all of that, there's just something about this album that I just throw it on. I'm just like, this is a bop, man. Like there's just something about the way it flows. Like I really mess with Spicy with Post Malone. Like, and I'm not really a huge Posty fan, but I was like, man, this dude knows how to do a freaking feature. Track 6 featuring Kanye West, Anderson .Paak, and Thundercat is like a master, like class level track work right there. There's honestly just a lot of really strong songs on this album for me as a whole. I just went with it. I didn't think that it would be as high, just because there's so many parts of it that on paper scream Colton is going to make this like number 40 minimum or 50. But sonically, after listening to it, I was like, I don't know, man, maybe just because it's Ty and I have a soft spot for Ty, but I bopped with it. I ultimately gave it a 9.3. I know, right? It really impressed me. I still don't like it better than Beach House 3. but I think whatever is next, because this was supposed to be, as Ryan mentioned, Dream House, which is the conclusion or the fourth installment of the Beach House series. So I watched him in an interview. I think Dream House is still going to happen. It's just going to be different. Like, it's not going to
Yeah.
be, this was him
I'm
saying.
excited for it.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it.
I'm glad this wasn't it.
Yeah, same. Like similar with Ed Sheeran, like this was him saying, I just honestly really want to prove to people like I can work with all kinds of people. I can master and mix and produce something that honestly I'm not even on. I'm gonna let someone else come in and do the vocals and I'm gonna do everything else. Like that's cool. Like being an artist in this album is really just different. It's not just I'm vocal. It's not just, oh, I'm a EDM producer. It's kind of like he's both here. He's doing it all. Like, and I feel like there's not a lot of people who make albums like that. So I would encourage him to continue using that same mentality going forward. We just don't need a whole album of it. Maybe come back with 70% vocal and 30% of the idea of featuring Ty Dolla $ign. And maybe that could be Dream House and it'd be fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a slapper. There's some songs for everyone on this album.
I also would like to say, and just we're gonna talk about Masego again, but I really wish that Ty Dolla $ign had been on sides with me. Like if Ty Dolla $ign had just joined that song would be the number one song on the planet right now.
Yeah, I think
and like
Masego,
it started, and I just heard it, and I was like, Ty Dolla $ign needs to remix this yesterday.
I think
it would be so good.
They definitely need to work together. Like Masego, Ty, John Bellion, like these artists who they don't just do the vocals or the producing.
They do everything.
They kind of do both. They can conduct, they can mix, they can master, they can do all kinds of things. Like just being multi-talented as a musician. Sometimes that would just do it for me. That might come off to be making a more impressive album than someone who's really a masterwork of vocals, but like their production is like doesn't fit them or is trash. Like something impressive about that.
Yeah, but I just really wish that he had been on sides with me. I feel like that was just like the song isn't missing anything, but that would have just added just like another just whole layer of spice to it.
Hey, next album, man. Next album.
Hey, it's always a possibility. I'm manifesting it.
Speak it into existence. Adam, what's your number 17?
All right, so number 17 for me is another CHH album. This is 2045.
Ooh.
Paris Cruz. Paris is relatively new. I don't want to say like new because he has had a couple of projects and a couple of big ticket features. He was on the Summer 19. Couple of songs on Summer 19. I know Big Wave. Yeah, Big Wave came out. He got the Lecrae co-sign on that one. He's been in a couple of features with people like RG, Ty Brazzle, things like that. 1K's done some stuff with him. But this was his first like album. Like I feel like his previous bodies of work have been a lot more mixtapey. Like he had Waves World come out a couple years ago, which was really good. But it definitely felt like a mixtape. Had the like the Gangster Grills kind of intro, like had all that kind of stuff. But this one definitely feels more like an album. Features and production were insane. Like honestly, has 1K on a song, which 1K pops off on literally anything he's on. All of his production has a Foggy Raw feature, which again pops off.
That was great.
Yeah. Geeked Up was produced by my boy Aha. So Geeked Up goes hard.
I think that was his first album placement too.
I think so, as far as production goes.
Yeah.
And then I really enjoyed the Can't Hold Back freestyle a lot. I think that front to back, they're just no skips, no misses. Like this album, as far as hip hop this year goes, I'm double checking to make sure I'm not wrong. Yeah, as far as CHH goes, this is the second. Like this is my number 2. Number 1 is way on down the list somewhere, but this is number 3. of CHH artists. This one it just hit different, and I really like Paris's delivery. His
It's
vocal
so smooth.
delivery, yeah, it's very like laid back, almost like Biggie vibes, like that. Very smooth, very like almost lackadaisical, like it's almost so swung, like almost swung. It's so laid back, which is really cool. Because not a lot of people do that anymore. That's not a very popular style.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people can.
Yeah, you have to have this level. Like it's one of the styles of rap where like you legitimately just have to have that vibe.
The
like,
sauce.
You just have to have it. And if you don't, then it doesn't work out for you. But I don't know. I just it as far as it compared to his other bodies of work, it's definitely the best because I think he put the most effort into it. I mean, he put the most marketing behind it, put the most like delicate feature placement, all that stuff. Had a lot of big ticket names co-sign it and talk about it, like Lecrae talked about it. Andy talked about it, like big people who normally people listen to when it comes to music recommendations recommended this, and so as a result, it popped off, and I think he has done well. He since has released a deluxe version. Again, the deluxe versions go crazy. That has a couple extra tracks on it.
It's a good deluxe. It's not like, oh,
It
man,
is.
these tracks are throwaways. Like
It
there
is.
isn't
These are
a
good.
full aha feature. It's sad aha, and it's just like piece de resistance.
These are good.
Sad aha hits different.
Yeah, though these are good.
Sad aha.
We'll talk about sad aha in a little bit. But I really liked 2045. I think that he is going to be a really big artist going forward in the CHH
I think so.
space.
I agree.
I think in the rap space too.
Oh, I agree.
I think he has tons of crossover ability.
This
as
charted
we
well.
see the line start to blur, he'll be one of the ones that is able to stay above the waves a little bit.
Yep.
Like him, Wande, and RG, and Gavi.
Yeah, Gavi already be doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so just continuing with our CHH train.
Boy.
My number 17 is John Keith, Anti-Hero.
Okay.
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 Yeah.
He said, yeah.
So I thought this album was okay. I was not mad about it. I was not like blown away like I expected to be, because I honestly heard this and expected just to be taken aback with how good it was.
Same.
Like how I was the first time I listened to Olympus. I was like, I came into Olympus like just ridiculous. I was like, this is amazing. Like I remember when Adam showed me back and I was like, who is this person? Like this is incredible. That being said, I really like the parts of this that I really really liked, which is why it's placing so high. Like Steel God, I thought he popped off on. I really liked Everywhere as well. And even though like I kind of ragged on it, but Limitless with Wave IQ has grown on me a lot because I listened to it a bunch. So it's kind of, I don't know if it's Stockholm, but I'm starting to like that song. But I agree with what you kind of talked about earlier about how he was kind of headed in a poppier direction, kind of. But I feel like he was just trying to try some stuff that he just enjoy. I think he made an album of things that he liked to listen to.
Yeah.
Like I don't know for sure, but just like if I had to guess, this was an album that he likes to listen to more than he would like to listen to, like let's say in Olympus, because I feel like it's not as dark in a way.
Yeah.
Because Olympus was very, very heavy. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. Yeah.
And did you say then that you liked this album more than Olympus or less?
Less.
Okay, that's fair. I think we're all on that stance.
I
That
like
we
this
Olympus more.
Yeah, I liked Olympus more.
In
I
terms-
also think Olympus was more my lane too, because it's more
Same.
rappity
Same.
and like more like upbeat, and that is kind of what I'm drawn to more.
In terms of his projects, I would say Olympus, Honey Blonde, Anti-Hero.
I agree.
I'm I'm with that. Yeah.
Have
I
you listened
agree.
to Honey Blonde?
I have.
Okay. Honey Blonde is really good too. But anyway.
Yeah.
That's good. I agree
I
with
like
that.
how our collective opinion of Antihero is like,
Yeah.
it's
Sorry,
It's
fine.
John.
good. Like I
Sorry,
listen
John
to it.
Keith.
Like I'll go back and listen to it sometimes. It was
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
I didn't. It wasn't necessary. I think I expected it to be something else, and I don't
Expectation
know if I
versus
should.
reality, dude.
Yep.
Kills
Yeah.
it.
It really
I
did.
don't think I should have necessarily.
That's
Yeah.
hard. That's tough because
It's-
like you have this
sucks.
mental picture of what you think
Yeah.
it is going to be based on the previous things and all. So anyway,
Yeah.
This is also the last time I will talk about an album, and I'll say I thought it was okay. Officially.
Everything from
This
here
is-
is like this is a slappy
Everything
album.
from here just blew me, like punched me in the throat with just how good it was to me.
yeah.
But yeah,
Speaking of
Alright.
punch me in the throat, my number 17 is Visions
Oh
of
my
Bodies
God.
Being Burned by Clipping.
Mm.
So I remember last year, Ryan mentioned the not prequel or first installment of this like horrorcore series by Clipping, which there existed an Addiction to Blood, and he mentioned that album because I didn't listen to it. And he was talking about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the last 18 minutes they just burned a piano." I was like, "This is insane," because it was like it was like really high for him, and I was like,
it was really good.
and I was like, "That's wild." But then again, I was like, "It's Davi Diggs. I mean, the man doesn't do wrong." So
Facts.
I was like, I should probably check that out. That didn't happen until they dropped this album called Visions of Bodies Being Burned, which is the spiritual successor to There Existed an Addiction to Blood. You have like the same cover art, just redone. Instead of nails, it's a bed of like bones, stalactites. I don't really know. Teeth.
Yeah.
Who knows what this is? But it's this idea of like horrorcore. The first one was like a vampire movie, and this one is like a
I
collection
think
of
this
like
is slasher.
I think this is slasher flick, like 80s slasher films. And I was like, you know what? I'm digging into Clipping. Let's go. And so I listened to both. And I like There Existed Addiction to Blood, the 18-minute piano track. Honestly, one of my top 3 from it because it was so good, and the idea behind it was cool.
Yeah, and it's also very peaceful.
It is extremely peaceful.
In
I
a very
think
chaotic way.
I wish they added something like that, a closer to this album, into this one. But I think I like this one better. I really liked Visions of Bodies Being Burned. I thought David brought it. The production brought it. His 2 producers who work with him like really brought it. Like they drove like a van and they had like a microphone, and they would do drive-bys on the microphone to make it sound like they were doing a drive-by. Like what? Like it's crazy. And at one point they're just throwing spoons at a fan. And there wasn't as much of the what do you call this, like noise rap. There wasn't as much of like that production wise in here, and I kind of like that. I didn't need 20 minutes of just like I'm going to like absolutely destroy your ears right now. It was like,
and they do that sometimes.
Because they do that sometimes, and it only happened like twice, and it wasn't that long, and it felt kind of cool and necessary. So I was with it. I just really want to point out there's a track called 96 Nev Campbell with these like 2 women named Cam and China, and everyone should listen to it because it was like the perfect idea of the concept where it sounded like I was in a horror film, and I was really down for it. There's also another track that I really liked further down called Check the Lock. Check the Lock was also a bop too. There's a lot of really cool features on here. I don't know a lot of these artists, to be honest with you. They're probably like smaller artists who are his like friends, or he has close relationships with like in Oakland or New York or something. But everyone on here brought it. So I was like, I don't know who these people are, but
Oh yeah, they were so good.
But they killed it. It's a really great album. So I think every Halloween now, it's just, or when I'm feeling in the spooky vibes, definitely throwing this and Addiction to Blood on. And I'm looking out for just some more Clipping because like now I'm really into them, and I'm always.
Have you gone back and listened to like the first couple albums?
I like the Space one a lot because I like
Uh-huh.
Space. Whatever that one was called. But
The
yeah,
one with Taking Off on it is really good.
it's David. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
don't
especially this year, like when he blew up, because everyone's like, Hamilton exists and is accessible now, and I was like, yes. So when that happened, I was like, wow, David is like hot. And then it's like, oh yeah, did you also know he makes like music outside of that, and he made Blind Spotting? So like everyone's up on that ish now. And so if you're into Hamilton or something, check out Clipping, because it's really cool, and you can hear David's voice more, because I really like that man's voice a lot.
Also, listen to the Blind Spotting soundtracks.
Yeah, there's some Blind Spotting soundtracks. I put those on my list in 2018. Those were in my top 50. And watch out for the new show, Blind Spotting, being
Oh
filmed
yeah,
in Oakland right now for Showtime. It's Showtime, right?
Showtime. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be so sick.
I'm hyped for it.
He's in Snowpiercer too, right?
Yeah,
Snowpiercer.
he is Snowpiercer, not the
Okay.
train, but like he is
The
The
lead.
leader of the
yeah.
The lead
That's right.
character.
Yeah.
He's also going to be Sebastian with Chloe and Halle, or
Oh, yeah?
whichever one of them plays Ariel. He's going to be their Sebastian. So like that's
Shout
going to
out.
be.
It's
Also,
gonna be interesting.
he also plays an old white woman on Central Park on Apple TV.
What?
Yeah, you got to watch it, man. It's
I didn't know. I knew he was in it. I didn't realize he. I thought he was the black dude. I didn't realize he was an old white woman.
the black dude is Leslie Odom, so other Hamilton person, but he plays the old white woman,
Shout out.
and he's hilarious. It's
That's
incredible.
funny.
Yeah,
All right. We're on to 16.
we sure
Yes,
are.
sir.
My number 16 is How I'm Feeling by Love.
Let's go.
Yeah. I really like this thing. Love he's a weird one.
He is.
His music is very interesting. His vibe is very interesting. But this was definitely like, as a collection of, or as a body of work, this was the most complete with concept and in flow. I feel like it flows really well. It is really long,
It is.
but I don't feel like it's that long.
I agree.
Listening to it, it doesn't feel as long as it is. There's a couple of tracks that like kind of speed up the pace, and then there are tracks that slow down the pace, and there are features that I think all of the features are good. Like, I think they're very well placed features with Anne Marie and Melissa Cara. And of course Lainey, but I'll talk about them in a little bit. BTS, Troye Sivan. I think that Love now has to try to like differentiate himself from all the other emo white boys in pop. Because like there are a lot of them now.
There's a lot of them out there.
There are a lot of them. And I think that the concept of this album did a good job of that. And I think that his style of music is just unique enough that like I can still pick him out not knowing the sound. Like if he released new music, I think I would be able to pick him out before realizing it was him.
Yeah.
It's just unique enough. Like for me, the two tracks that really got me into this album were Billy. I really loved Billy. It's like this like triplet the whole time, but there's still like this really big 808 drop in it. Billy was good. Canada was fire. I loved Canada. It's really soft. It's one of the like more down tempo songs of the album, but it's really good. And it the whole thing is just really encapsulating of like what a roller coaster of emotions might feel like, which I love. But yeah, I really think that like watching him grow, his vocals have gotten a lot better. Because like he has always been really good at like a high tenor, like really nasally voice. But I think he's starting to learn to like open up and actually sing a little bit now, which is good. And his production's always been great. So I don't know. I think it's to me, this kind of like pushes his trajectory in a positive way, and I'm really interested to see where he goes next. Also, shout out to John Bellion with the production on Drugs and the Internet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know we've talked about it a little bit before, and I mentioned some things then as well. But I don't know. I really liked it more than I think I anticipated liking it.
Same.
And it was one of the first of that genre that I really got into this year. which there's more of that genre later on in my list. But
Yeah, for sure.
And it like I say, he has to differentiate himself more, I think, in the future. But he did a decent job with this album.
I agree.
Ryan?
All right. So my next album, I've been waiting to talk about this. I'm very excited. Is Secession.
All right.
With Aha and Siringo. So I love this album a lot. I think I texted Colton 42 different times the first time I listened to it and was like, this is amazing. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, this is amazing. He's like, yes. I was like, did you listen to it? And you were like, yeah. And you're like, leave me alone. And I was like, all right, but did you listen to it? So I'm just gonna dive in and say that Milk and Honey is the best song I've ever heard. I don't know if that's objectively true, but for the sake of talking about this album, it is the best song I've ever heard.
Gosh,
it's not, but this has probably one of my favorite verses I've heard in a very probably going to be one of my top 10 verses of all time from Tony Richard, of all time. That just the flow is impeccable. Aha's hook is incredible. I love it when we get just like hooking Aha, because like that is a skill that takes a lot to get like just earwormy enough for you to want to listen to it again, but it not be annoying.
Yeah.
Also throwing up Where We Were From, like Vomit, super hard. But also I have to talk about the Soul Ties interlude and the Soul Ties outro just for the samples that were used, because that was really, really interesting and really, really cool. How he used those samples. And also they just flow very well over everything. I think Who could be on the radio and do very well at any in any city, if people just heard it. So definitely go listen to this. It is amazing. It's so good. I could drown and like drone on and on and on and on and on about it, but I won't torture you with it. But this album's amazing. Who is part 2 of Pipe It Up, I've decided.
I love it.
We'll talk about it again in a little bit, but I think that their chemistry together is insane. I mean, they've been friends for a while. They have worked together behind the scenes for a while. My favorite thing about that album is the interplay between Still Smoking and Still Saucy. Because they take, because like Ringo does like this like smoke like motif through his music, and Aha has the sauce motif through his music, and so they had those where they were the only vocalists on those songs, but they reversed the production. So Aha produced Still Smoking for Ringo, and Ringo's producer Booth did Still Saucy for Aha. So it's like this like trade out type deal, which I really thought was cool. And Still Saucy is my favorite song on there, so
it's really good. It's so good.
Talk about having to take his Lincoln off the Twinkies. I mean, like what? And we'll talk about it more later. But geez,
man,
too many bars. Too many bars. Not so much bars, but maybe not in a rap sense, but in a compositional sense. My number 16 is It Is What It Is by Thundercat. Yeah. So this is my favorite Thundercat project. I really like Thundercat, but it's structurally the tightest one. 37 minutes, 15 songs. I think when it came out, I played it 4 times in a row, and I just kept looping it back. I was like, no, I'm not done. No, I'm not done. Like, no, you're not over, sir. Like, you can keep going. Like, it's really, really strong for me. I particularly also enjoyed the release of the singles for it. His marketing for it was really cool, with like this music video for Dragon Ball Durag that was like this almost start of the internet kind of vibe, and it was awkward, and it was shot on like 50 FPS or something. It was moving really fast. It was really weird, but it was cool. I just think this is a very strong project for him as a whole, as a solo artist too, because like, everyone's heard Thundercat, even if you're sitting here going like, who are they talking about? If you've heard To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar, if you have heard any of the past like 3 albums by the great late Mac Miller, like, you've heard Thundercat. He's he's laying down bass lines, he's doing background vocals, he's doing production for like some of like your favorite artists ever, but he also does like incredible solo work. Big shout out to Black Qualls, which is the 4th track with Steve Lacy, Steve Arrington, and Childish Gambino. Like just layers on layers on layers, like 3 just like legendary people with their instruments, and then you have Childish come in with the vocal on the back end, and you're like, yo, this is crazy. So that was incredible. I also like the little interludes. We had literally Zach Fox come in for an interlude. He did not rap. He just talked the entire time, which was awesome, because if you've ever heard Zach Fox just talk, he's hilarious. Dragon Ball Durag is probably my favorite song, but then so we have a Ty Dolla $ign feature, but we also have on the same song
Lil
called
B.
Fair Chance, Lil B. And honestly, Lil B brought it. When he comes in, he says, "Makes me up some of that potion." I'm just like, it's a vibe. Like, it just actually worked for me. Lil B was incredible on this track. Like, the fact that Lil B is great again blew my mind. So I was just really impressed by this project. I also just want to quickly shout out Thundercat, because this year we saw a lot of the idea of chop, not slop remixes. His previous album called Drunk from 2017, he had OG Ron C come in and do an entire chop, not slop version of that album called Drank in 2018. Drunk Drank. It's hilarious.
I love the name, yeah.
I know. And the purple, like the idea of putting purple on it, like he did that 2 years ago. And I know that's a very popular thing in the Houston scene for like the past 20 years. But from like a commercial standpoint, we saw a lot of that this year. But you go back and you look and you're like, well, hold up, Thundercat been on this. Like, he very hipster move, but he was awoken to that idea of a commercial release being Chop Not Stop remix before we got just inundated with them this year. I think that's just really impressive. Also, I watched his Hot Ones episode. Hot Ones, the show by Complex, where you eat chicken wings and stuff like that.
It's not Complex. It's First We Feast.
It's Complex.
It's owned by Complex.
Did they buy it?
Yes, they own it.
Oh.
Yeah, they own First We Feast. It's one of their sub brands.
Oh.
It's like Pigeons and Planes. They also own Pigeons and Planes and
Oh.
all that good stuff. Yeah, Soul Collector, all that stuff.
Complex News.
Complex News. They own. Yeah, it's like a product of theirs. But
Man, I thought they were small.
no, not anymore. I mean, they still let Sean do whatever he wants. But no. Anyways, I watched Thundercats episode with Sean, and this man, he was feeling it. Like at the very end, he was like, "Yep, that's gonna really mess up my digestion later." He didn't like flinch though. Like he just like ate every single one, even the bomb. Just ate it. It was just like, that's really hot. Anyways, and I was like, hold up. And he said that he didn't have much experience with like spicy food before. I was like, what? Apparently he tried to do a at-home version of that show by himself with Zach Fox like 3 years ago, and he got hot sauce all over him and like it burned his eyes. But other than that, he said, I don't eat spicy food. And this man just ate all this hot sauce and was just like, yeah, I'm cool. This was a great episode. Thanks, guys. Bye. And I was like, hold up. No, that's not how this works, sir. Like, you would die. But anyways,
I'm gonna do
legend.
it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it.
I really want to do it because I don't like spicy food. But all this to say, Thundercat's a legend. Go check out his new album. It is what it is.
All right. So I mentioned with my number 16 that this was the start of the emo white boy chain, and this next one is a continuation of the emo white boy chain. This is number 15, and this is "Love Is Not Dying" by Jeremy Zucker. So I had kind of slept on Jeremy Zucker a little bit at the beginning of the year. I heard "Come Through," which is like the single that gets pushed everywhere for him. It's all over the radio and stuff, or it was for a little while. And I heard it, and it was fine. Like, it was okay. He came on like my Spotify shuffle after people like John Bellion and stuff like that. Fine. Like, it was okay. But I think this album, being technically his debut album, is very mature for where he is in the space. I've kind of interpreted the whole thing in two different ways. The title itself is kind of has multiple meanings to me. Like love is not dying. Like love isn't dying. Like love is the thing that doesn't die, but also the idea that love is staying alive. Like to show someone love is to stay alive, like to not die, to not let yourself be overcome, which is kind of the theme of a lot of the songs. Most notably, my favorite song on the entire project by far is Orchid. Like the first time I heard it, it's not often that I hear things happen in songs where I like audibly like scream by what they did. But this one, when he like it goes into the chorus and he says you're beautiful, and then the sound cuts and this little like pitched up version says you're beautiful. Like it's like this absence of sound with this little minimal piece. If you're on headphones, it's like in the back of your head, like it's coming from behind you. Oof, like it's so good. And then after that, he brings in this really spaced out pocketed bass drum, like not an 808, just a bass drum, like that really like hollow hit.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, production went crazy on that. But then the message of that song literally is like, I'm losing somebody, like a relationship is ending, and I don't know what to do, but I also like realize that I'm still gonna just like love whoever this person is, because it's like the lyrics of it are I had them pulled up. I hope you make it past New Year's with a smile on your face, counting the days since I've known you and your life rearranged. It's just like this person obviously is not prioritizing them anymore. But just saying like, despite that, I still hope that you're okay, and I still hope that you're happy. And then the pre-chorus is like, I don't know where the fuck else I'd go, because it's not cancer, but I wish it was. Saying like, I wish this was something that we could tangibly blame. Like, I wish that this was ending because of something that we could be like, oh, it's this is fault, but we can't. It's just ending, and we don't know why. Like, lyrically, production-wise, that song to me encapsulates the entirety of the album. The other thing that really caught my attention was in Lake House. It's like super like boppy and fun until the end, and then they throw on the distortion switch. Go garage rock for like 30 seconds. It's crazy.
And then he cries at the end.
Yeah, like it's so good. I really loved this album.
Yeah, Lake House is my favorite song.
Yeah, Lake House is like, it's like do 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 do, and then at the end they just turn the distortion up and turn the gain up on everything and just power chord.
Hold up, wait, is this Rock Band 3 again? Hold on.
Yeah, like it feels so weird. But I really liked it. I think that Orchid, Lake House together was really cool to see them paired one after the other.
Yeah.
Not Your Friend is really cool. Not Your Friend is probably the most popular song on the album.
Yeah.
And then Oh Mexico, the last song I think it really wraps it up really, really well. I don't know. I think that speaking of people who have differentiated themselves in that space, I think that he has done a really good job of that.
I agree.
I think that his music is significantly more unique than a lot of people in the same space. He also has some work with Chelsea Cutler, which is really cool, because she's done a lot of really cool stuff too this year.
Yeah, they're making a Brent 2. Like,
shout out, yeah,
like
Brent
right now.
Yeah, I know. And she helped him. She co-wrote a lot of the songs on that album too.
Yeah.
So I think that he has a really interesting career ahead of him and a lot of cool stuff going on. They released a deluxe version of it with 2 songs that are on other things. Like they put Come Through on it for some reason, and then one of the songs from Brent 1 ends up on it, which is weird to me. They just like threw 2 tracks that were already other places onto the deluxe. I don't know. It's just weird.
2020 is for the deluxe version.
But yeah, I think that this album was like, it really caught me off guard. I was not prepared for how good it was going to be. So, yeah.
All right. So my number 15. I almost said the wrong number. That would have been bad. My number 15 is Music is the Weapon by Major Lazer. So I love Major Lazer. It's one of the most fun I've ever had at any concert ever. Was at Madison Block Party in 2015, which was when their last album, Pieces the Mission, came out, which gave us the mega hit Lean On, which if you listen to the radio in the past 5 years, you've heard it at least 30,000 times, which was them and DJ Snake. And this is the follow up, like basically the direct sequel to Music is the Weapon, or to Pieces the Mission. Just like they had the pairing, like they pair their albums a lot of times where it's like a concept and then this kind of closes it out. So you had Pieces the Mission, where you had like songs like Lean On, where they're like, they're trying to bring everybody together, and then they're going to do it through their music, which is here. And this is in my opinion, this is some of their best work since they've put out like Boomaye, and like the song Tiny, which only has 800,000 streams, is a travesty to me. That song is one of the best songs ever. Like honestly, one of the best songs ever.
It's got that beam on there too.
Oh, dude, Beam makes so many. Beam like made French Montana sound really good here. The hooks, like the hooks on this album go absolutely crazy. Like the hook for Bam Bam is amazing. The drop in Tiny is amazing. Nicki kills it in Oh My God. Just like Kalo K, like with Paloma Mami is amazing. If you've ever thought that you could, like, if you ever wanted to learn how to twerk, this is the song to do it to, because it gives you like different tempos. I've listened to this album so many times, just doing a great variety of activities, and it fits every single mood. Like I've driven to it, I have like unloaded packages to it, I have just cleaned to it, I have cooked to it. It is amazing from start to finish. It also gave me one of my favorite Khalid songs with Trigger. And I also have a Marcus Mumford feature, which is a very good song.
I saw that. Yeah. I was like, huh.
I was like, not odd. Mumford and Sons, just Marcus only.
Just Marcus Mumford. It's a really, really good album. I can't recommend it enough, honestly. If you just need to have a dance party with yourself, this is it. This is the album for you. It's amazing. I can't say anything bad about it. It's so good. Let's go listen to Tiny. It just makes you happy. It makes you want to like slow dance. It's very cinematic. It's nice.
All right, we've talked about it once before, but let's briefly talk about it again. Once again, on this episode, for my number 15 is 2045 by Paris Chariz. I just want to mention a couple of things earlier that we didn't talk about. One, cover art is fire. I really like this cover art. I like that he redid it for the deluxe, but it's like the same bones. I also like that he kind of put out, because there's not, Paris is a small artist. He's not out here. You can't go to the store and find his CD. You can't go to a record shop and find his vinyl, because I don't think he even pressed this album on vinyl. But he did like kind of liner notes for this album on Instagram. And he did pictures in this jacket and with the cross necklace and the specific helmet, because this is obviously like probably a hand-drawn Sam Spratt style painting, quote unquote. And he's walking around with this helmet, like this futuristic outfit that he's wearing. So I thought that was cool.
Very Daft Punk of him.
Very Daft Punk. Good point. Very Daft Punk. And then conceptually, these opening monologues of like, it sounds like this British girl is like talking to a dystopian society, and they found 2045 by Paris Chariz. Like, I'm going to play this music for you. And it's like the reason that we're all going to live. Like, I don't know what any of that really means, but I thought it was really cool. Like the opener and the closer, and then how it technically the album ends. And then there's still more tracks after that. Like there's still 3 tracks after the album concept ends. That's like the epilogue. I thought that was really, really cool. That's pretty much all I really wanted to add to it. I gave this album ultimately a 9.4. I remember the first time I listened to it, it took me by surprise, because I hadn't really listened to a lot of his solo or main artist work. I'd heard him on features and stuff. And then this was coming out. I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to this like on a Saturday morning. And I started listening to this, and I was like, this is so saucy. I don't know what's happening. Like it just came out of nowhere, and I was like, this is absolutely fire. And it charted really well on hip hop charts on like Apple. Like it wasn't just like Christianity. It was like hip hop. Like this is like number like 3 or 4. And I was like, that's crazy because it is a really good hip hop album, in my opinion, regardless of its like spiritual, lyrical content at times. But 24/5, Paris Chariz, go hit him up. He's on the rise. Help out a small artist, stream him.
I think, speaking of the concept as a whole and like the beginning and ending, I think it's very similar to the way Trillium 3, Aha's Trillium 3 started and ended. Because
Right.
it starts off with the the like eulogy, like we're welcome
Red's
you, like
Rob.
it's like coming into the into the church and like grab your neighbor, talking to the whatever. But then at the end, he's like, "What y'all still doing here? The album's over. You can't. We ain't gonna get Trillium 4. It's no Trillium 1, 2, 3. Trillium dead. Like get out of here." Like
Yeah.
like that type of beginning to end thing is like, yeah, the album's over, but like there's more. Like in
Very
Harris's
Ferris
case,
Bueller.
there's more. Yeah, there's more to it, like fourth wall breaky type stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I
think
was
it's really
literally
cool.
gonna say the same thing. Ferris Bueller for sure.
Yeah, I think that concept is super fun to listen to because it's like puts you in this space. I don't know. All right, my staying in hip hop a little bit here. My number 14 is Detroit 2 by Big Sean.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
If you're on video, Colton has the Detroit 2 merch on. Anyway, I think that coming from someone who's not a huge Big Sean fan, historically speaking, I think that this is a really, really good album. I liked it a lot. I don't typically like Big Sean, like I said, and I think that more importantly, this is a big step. Like not like I don't want to say for the culture because that feels too like cliche, but I think that's kind of the realm of what I'm trying to say. Killer features. Lord, Friday Night Cypher alone has
For
like
10 people.
trillion people on it. Yeah, with a lot of really good features throughout the album. Before that, I don't know. I think that I really liked the vibe more so than I've liked literally anything else he's ever put out, which is weird because I feel like I don't know. I don't feel like I'm necessarily the most qualified to speak too much on Big Sean because I have not historically listened to him enough, I guess. But I really like this album. I think that it lyrically and production wise, it's extremely solid. Like very, very good. That's where most of its points came from for me. Was in writing and production.
Dude,
and,
Hit Boy.
and features.
Hit Boy don't miss. That man's production crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, you're absolutely right. And so I think that's what kind of put it pretty high for me.
Yep.
The shine, like the thing that I love the most about it, and this is just for Friday Night Cypher, but the fact that they bring in all these different artists.
Yes.
That were Detroit centered and all these things that they do so well together and they pop off so well. Of course Eminem's on it, so like that's fine.
Yeah.
But Eminem gonna do Eminem. I mean, he's gonna do Eminem things. There's no point in talking about Eminem anymore because he just does Eminem things.
Did you guys know that Eminem is a good rapper? Has we
What?
ever talked about that before?
The person I want to gas up in there is Sada Baby. That dude killed it. Like he didn't even have like a full 16, and he still killed it. Like, and Royce did really well too. Royce's verse in there was really good too. But gosh, Sada Baby blew it out of the water. So yeah, Detroit 2. Highly recommend.
We'll talk about it again for sure.
Yeah, I knew we will, and so that's why I was like, I don't want to say too much because again, I don't feel like I'm super qualified to speak too much on Big Sean, but I really like the album.
I got you.
Yeah, this is my.
I will say one hot take. I didn't love the Travis Scott song. Did not love Lithuania.
That's fair.
Did you listen to it as a Big Sean song or did you listen to it as a Travis Scott song?
Somewhere in the middle.
Okay. I think if you listen to it as a Travis Scott song, it makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I
agree. But yeah, I didn't love it.
I'm ready for Utopia to come out. I'm just saying. I know it's going to be 6 years, but I'm ready for Utopia.
Same.
Anyway, so my number 14 is Heathen by Gavi.
Whoa, I didn't think we were going to get into it this soon.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So like I talked about earlier, every album after Anti-Hero is just, I thought was phenomenal. Including this one. I gave this a total of a 4.4 out of 5 or an 8.8 if you're going out of 10. Because I thought it was really good. I thought I enjoyed the way it started. And I love that just right off the bat he hits you with the surprise Andy feature. And JIT, as I was listening to it, and I was like, all right, cool. I was like, this beat's really hard. And I was like, not expecting Andy to be just to hear him go, you little JIT, who raised you? And I was like, here, this is amazing. I think my favorite song is probably Skull.
Oh, without a doubt.
Go crazy.
Skull.
Yes.
I also have to give a shout out to like Feed the Gang.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Fine goes nuts to me. This has one of my favorite outros of all time on it. Like it's up there with the end of 2014 Forest Hills Drive and Journal Admission.
Yep.
For me, in outros when he's just hanging out with his friends. I like this a lot because there's other people involved in it. It's not just him like, all right, I'm just gonna ramble.
Yeah, it's a collective.
I also enjoy the fact that he talks about who you gonna be, and he's like, Israel Houghton, I don't know if you're gonna be on the album. You haven't gotten back to us yet, but if you are, thank you. And if you're not, we're gonna cut it. But if you are, I know you killed it. This is amazing. I thought that was really cool. His production is just out of this world. I know we're gonna talk about it later, so I'll keep it short. But I really enjoyed this album. I thought it was I was kind of worried that he was gonna try to copy paste what he did for Panorama, and I'm glad that he didn't.
Yeah.
I feel like he chose to explore musically more rather than just put out 24 bangers. Like I know he could, like he probably is just like has in his bag waiting to explode on us. But I feel like I really enjoyed the fact that he put out a very solid body of work, and I think he should win the Dove Award.
Also, shout out for getting words played in an album.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, right?
Rapping words played.
That man's hard to lock down nowadays.
Especially if you're not Andy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You got to be Andy to do it.
That man's hard to lock down, dude.
Yeah.
He has his circle of trust stuff going on. So.
Yeah. Circle of trust. All right.
Oh my gosh.
My number 14 is The Jesse Volume 3 by Jacob Collier. So last year we
Y'all like crying. This is what I'm learning today.
And it's in the 10s, not as much, but in the 20s, oh heck yeah, or like the teens, I should say. Heck yeah, crying and buying. Anywho, last year we did an episode in which we talked about artists and things that we didn't include in our album countdown, because typically, like, I feel like I finish this list and then I'm like, cool, I'm good with this, and like 3 or 5 things pop up out of nowhere at the very end of the year that have been out for months, and I'm like, oh, I really wish I included this or I knew about this in time, because this blows me away. Jacob Collier's music was one of those, because he released the Jesse Volume 2 last year in 2019, and I was like, this kid's a freaking genius. Like, he won Grammys over John Williams for like musical composition, like twice. I was like, what? Who is this man? And then he was like, I'm putting out a 3rd and 4th set. It's supposed to be for the Jessies, and each one explores a different type of sound to ultimately make one long album that is supposed to be a symphony, because he's like a classic inspired musician, basically. This album was like electronic and hip hop and R&B inspired. So very much up my alley. It's my favorite to Jesse that he's put out, purely based upon the thesis statement that he went with. And this man is crazy. Like, he can like rap, but then he can also produce and mix and master and orchestrate and songwrite. Like, it's crazy. But he rapped on this album for a minute on the song Count the People with T-Pain and Jesse Reyes, which was insane, that he got T-Pain and Jesse Reyes on one song together. All kinds of crazy features. Tank and the Bangas, Daniel Caesar and him worked really well together. Ty Dolla $ign also blew me away with his verse. But then we also got Tori Kelly and Rhapsody. Like, the diversity is just crazy. And Rhapsody went off on this. Like, they were a really good pair. and just production, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I gave the whole thing a 9.4 essentially at the end of the day. And it just impressed me. It's actually up for album of the year at the Grammys, which I think is actually extremely warranted. I don't agree with most of those nominations in there, but this is one of the few that I do, because we've seen him get Grammy nominations only in musical composition categories. And I was like, why isn't he nominated for this kind of album? They kind of just skipped that stage and just gave him album of the year. And I was like, all right, that works. But if he was to win it, I would not be upset at all, because this is a strong album for me. Also, I mess with his cover art. It's always supposed to be his face.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's always supposed to be his face in different ways. And this time it's like stars and constellations. So that really just spoke to me a lot. It's an impressive body of work. You should also check out his performances on like Jimmy Kimmel and stuff like that. Like, he was able to like clone himself and like layer himself onto different instruments, and he's playing a cello on one, and he's over here playing like a keyboard on the other, and then he's over on the other side of the room playing something else, and then Ty Dolla $ign is in the bathroom mirror. Like, it was crazy. So it's really cool stuff. And whenever he finishes it next year, supposedly maybe 2022, Jesse Volume 4, I think he's planning to tour the entire thing and play like all 4 albums as like a symphony or something. It's gonna be crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's gonna be insane. He has
It's gonna be a long ass show.
He has a custom like setup from MIT where like he can swivel around, and it's like 50 different like instruments, and he just swivels in a chair, and he can like just play different shit with his hands and like trigger different loops and stuff, and just build entire songs as his own one-man like symphony. It's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
Also,
no, he's mad talented.
That cover art looks like the book things they use at the eye doctor to tell you if you're colorblind or not.
I just took one of those tests the other day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with you. That's hilarious.
Because it's like, can you see where his eyes are? Like,
Yeah.
Oh, I think they're right there. I don't know. Anyway, all right, on to number 13 for me. This is Limbo by Amine.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I slept on him for a long time. I was not into his music really until like a year ago. I listened to his previous album like way back. And I've heard him on a couple of other things, but this album was just good music, man. Like, geez. And again, we have a deluxe version of it.
Did you listen to it?
I have not listened to the deluxe yet.
You should hit it up. It's fire.
Okay, I will. But the songs, like the features on here, the production on here, none of it misses.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has a song with JD. Charlie Wilson.
And Charlie Wilson.
Ugh, so
like,
good.
What?
And then Thug gonna do Thug things. Yeah, I also really like Riri. I didn't like. There weren't many songs that stuck out as individual songs to me except for Roots and Riri. But yeah, I just really like it. I think he is. I don't want to say he's underrated because I don't know that he's underrated. Like I don't know what his relative popularity is in the scene. But I feel like I don't hear about him as much as we should hear about him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. But very solid release. I know that it's going to come up again later.
Oh,
but
yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah. Definitely, if you have not listened to Amine,
the catalog.
I slept too long. Like, I did not get into it early enough. And I hate that I did not.
What's your favorite Amine project out of the 3?
Probably this one.
Same.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Probably.
I agree. Go back to last year when Ryan was like 1.5, and I was like, brother, that came out in 2018, and he was like, it did.
No, I knew it came out in 2018. I was just mad that I had missed it.
Oh yeah,
so I forced it onto the list.
That's right.
Just to spite time.
So is Limbo gonna be in the 2021 list for you?
Oh no, I listened to Limbo. I really liked Limbo. It's just something I forgot to grade. So like it's not gonna come back. I really enjoyed it. I think Adam covered my thoughts on it almost exactly, but I enjoyed it. It's not gonna be on the 2021 list.
All right, good to know.
However, for the 2020 list, we're gonna
Oh,
talk about
here it
Eminem.
is. Oh, here it is. Music to be murdered by.
I don't sleep very much. And so I was just hanging out, chilling, scrolling through Spotify one Friday morning, just like, I wonder if they've updated it for New Music Friday. And lo and behold, I close the app, I reopen it, it goes through its loading process, and the first thing I see is Music to Be Murdered by Eminem. And I got out of bed and I listened to it in that moment. And I really liked it. I enjoyed the fact that he pulled a concept from Alfred Hitchcock to make this album. There's also a B-sides that came out yesterday
Literally.
that I haven't listened to yet, but I plan on it. I listened to the song where he talked about Tekashi and Snoop Dogg, though, and I thought that was interesting. But he gave us Gangster Anderson .Paak, and this album is this high solely for this reason. There are other reasons, but this is the main reason. I never thought I would get I Will Shoot You in the Face Anderson .Paak, but we did it, and it is so good.
Yeah.
No Regrets with Don Toliver is also a
Mhm.
very, very solid song.
It's Don.
Yeah. The only song I don't like on here is Stepdad.
Same.
I could have done without Stepdad. I think it's hilarious that the Stepdad intro has 8,000 streams.
Wait, wow. It has a very, very different level of streams versus the rest of the album, everyone.
People be like, I'm gonna just skip the intro.
Like,
Yeah.
like Godzilla has almost has more than half a mil, and then the Stepdad intro
that's half a billion.
That's
dog.
half a billion.
Oh wait, that's half a billy. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is half a billy, and then Stepdad intro is like barely 9,000.
Yeah.
Rip.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
I enjoyed Unaccommodating. So I'll let you speak in a second. I really enjoyed Unaccommodating with Young M.A. as well. I thought that was a very good way to start it.
I agree.
And I like him reaching out and like promoting other rappers.
Same.
Hey, what was up? Sorry.
Didn't he break his record for like most words rapped in Godzilla?
Oh yeah, Godzilla
Yes.
beat Rap
Yes,
God.
he did.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's insane.
it was cool.
I did not rate this album. I honestly forgot that it came out this year.
It was January.
2020 has been 37 years.
I know,
It's
like, I
understandable.
forgot, dude.
It was a lot. It was almost a year ago. Like it came out in
So,
January. Yeah.
Like I forgot that it came out this year,
Yeah,
and so I
but-
didn't rate it.
But the B-sides, as he said, like the B-sides just came out. So
Yeah, you're right. No, you're
go
right.
back because I'm planning to go back because this is not on my 50. It didn't make it high enough, but there was everything you said about it, Ryan, was exactly how I felt about it with like the pieces that were great. So now B-sides came out. Here's a question. Okay. It's called B-sides. It has a different title.
It's 16
alternative-
tracks.
Is that a separate album or is that a deluxe version? Can we grade it next year?
Are there any of the songs that are the same?
It's so disc 1 is the new stuff, and then disc 2 is the first album.
So I think it's separate. I think disc 1 would be separate.
I think I
I think
agree.
you can grade it because it is side B.
It is side B. I mean, to me, that makes it no different almost than Evermore. Because
Yeah.
that's a separate album. I'm grading that next year.
Yeah, it's separate
Okay. Good to know.
because
All right.
it is 16 new songs that we
It's-
haven't heard before.
It's literally, it's long enough to be a new album. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, here's 4 more tracks. It's literally like, here's
it is
16
a
new
whole
songs.
ass album.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna grade that then. All right. Come back next year, family. We'll see if I put Eminem on my list because he didn't make it this year. Maybe next year. My number 13 is Manic by Halsey. This is her best body of work, in my opinion. There was a point in time where Colton and Ryan really did not mess with Halsey. There was a point in time where we did mess with Halsey. We saw her open for the weekend.
The weekend.
Yeah, the
Travis
weekend.
Scott opened before her.
Oh yeah, she was just the opener then, I guess. Travis Scott, Halsey in the weekend on his Beauty Behind the Madness 2015 tour, and We
This
were
is
all the way.
Badlands era, Halsey.
Yeah,
Wow.
Badlands era, first album. She played Castle. We all cried. It was lit.
Stared into our souls as she walked around Phillips Arena. Let's not
Yep.
forget about that. That was scary. She made eye
Yeah.
contact, and I didn't know what to do.
Okay. Yeah,
Scary.
exactly. And then she came out with the follow-up album, Hopeless Fountain Kingdom. And there was like 2 songs on there I liked, and the rest I did not mess with. And just like she was messing around with a lot of my artists that I like, and she screwed them over. So I was like, I don't like Halsey anymore. But then she released this, and I said, hold up, I like Halsey again because she's incredible on this album. Like really impressive. I think this is a deluxe version I'm actually looking at because I see it's 27 songs. It's actually 16 and 47 minutes. Once again, the deluxe versions. I think disc 1 is, I don't know what this disc 2 is. Oh, it's a bunch of remixes. Okay, cool. Good to know. Anywho, I like the fact that each of her features, Dominic Fike, Alanis Morissette, like what? And Suga of
Yeah.
BTS, all 3 features fire. And it's
for sure.
and it's called like she gives them an interlude. She just says, here's your interlude, like play for a minute, do your thing. There's not a song with her and the featured artist. It's like it's like a 3-act play broken up by a feature for each act, which is super dope. Yeah, it was really a cool idea with that. And just the 3 people she got are so interesting. Dominic Fike, Alanis Morissette, Suga, BTS, like so very different people of all different ages and stuff too. But I just really mess with this. Also, shout out John Bellion for The Graveyard. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when this song came out and I was like, this is really good. And then John Bellion was like, yeah, I wrote that. And I was like, that makes sense. I really like this song by Halsey. So,
Yeah.
I also just thought starting back at her run in January of 2019 with the Live Without Me song, that song changed the way I felt about Halsey. Where that song came out, and I was like, this has been on the radio too many times for me, but to be honest, it's a slappy song. And then every single after that just kept coming and coming and coming. And then she released Manic. And honestly,
it's so good.
It's not really a Halsey album. It's an Ashley album. That's her real name, Ashley. I forget her last name, but it's almost an album written from the perspective of her, not as her alter ego, which was really cool. And she just impressed me. I thought she had a good year. We talk about her with MGK this year. They're friends again, which also makes me really happy. She was incredible on Tickets to My Downfall. And also uncredited John Mayer feature. She was taking Black Bear. Yes, she was taking Black Bear on tour, which was cool. Didn't happen because COVID. But then also shout out to the uncredited John Mayer feature of he left her a voicemail talking about Live Without Me, and he said this song is incredible, and I was like, it's John Mayer, everyone. He didn't release an album, so he's not on my list, but he's always on a feature somewhere. Anyways, hit up. This is the third highest rated female solo pop album that I have. I have 2 more, so see if you can guess them by the time I get to them.
Cool. One note on Graveyard. Ryan, you missed that there John Bellion concert we listened to.
Yeah.
And he played his version of it.
Oh, really?
It's cool.
So he did one part of the show was like a concert, which I'll tell you about later. And then the second half, he played a couple of he played recorded versions of songs in like the after party, and Graveyard was one of them. He played his version of Graveyard.
Okay.
It was good. I mean, you can
sick.
see you can see the things that she changed, and he talked about it a little bit. Because she did a lot of even did some lyrical changes and stuff, but ultimately it was very similar, so it's kind of cool. All right,
sick.
Number 12.
Yeah.
My number 12 is A Letter to My Younger Self by Quinn 92.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Again,
Quincy,
sad emo white boys.
Very.
We're just hitting them back to back. So this album I think is his best album.
Yes.
I've listened to all of them. I've been a big fan of his for a while. And mainly because of his connections to the artists on the same label as John Bellion, him and Black Bear. run together sometimes. Him and Chelsea Cutler, him and Jeremy Zucker, all those people kind of intermingle and do lots of things together. And I think that this one, both the concept of it and sonically speaking, I think that it does a lot better than some of his previous pieces have done. This whole concept of like Letter to My Younger Self, it seems that, at least to me, he's kind of like looking back on his past and like reflecting on the things that he's learned, like the positive things, but also thinking about maybe the things that could have been done differently. And then like the song, Second Time Around. The song Second Time Around kind of is like the analysis of like, well, I've done all these things, but I'm going to do better now. Like I'm thinking back of all these mistakes that I've made and things that have happened in the past, but I'm going to try to do better. And that's kind of the theme of the whole album. But some of the songs really are just like vibing to things that happened like in like high school and college, like Stacy, Two Tens, Coffee, like all those things are very like very John Bellion drum, like in the pocket type feel, which makes sense because he co-wrote Stacy. Like it all makes sense when you think about it. But my favorite song is probably Notice Me or Mad at Me. I don't know which for sure. Notice Me has one of my favorite hooks, and Mad at Me is my favorite like message. But I really liked this album a lot more than I expected to. Features are crazy. It's got Black Bear. It's got Ash, which if you don't know who Ash is, check her out. She has a lot of really cool stuff. Hasn't released a proper album, but she's featured on a ton of people's stuff. She was on an album that Ryan mentioned earlier, like an EDM album of somebody. I don't even remember who it was. Oh, it was Big Gigantic. That I think I could be wrong. Correct. Am I right?
Let me check. Yeah, hold on.
I think I'm right. Anyway, I'll continue on with that. It's got Marky Basie on it. We talked about him a little bit earlier on the Lecrae project, and then it's got Logic, the Don, on it. Which my favorite thing about this Logic feature is that it was low key a plug for his album, which came out like 2 months later.
Yes, tracklist done, but I might just hold it until 2021. And every Logic fan, including myself, was sitting here going like, well, damn.
Yeah, but then at the end when he says, "Now that I feel better, I'm finally under no pressure," and that
then he was like, "I'm finally under no pressure," and we're all like, "Oh, it's gonna be no pressure, but it could be another 6 months to a year."
Yeah, I really loved that was just a plug. Like it has nothing to do with the rest of the song.
No.
Like Letter to My Younger Self is a song with a Logic plug in it.
It was incredible.
It's so funny. But that song was really cool. I don't know. I think. 210s is also very slept on. I think 210s is a very good song. But definitely his best project. I'm really looking forward to see what he does next. I know he's got some he just came out with a single with Chelsea Cutler, which is just indexed to me. It's really good. I really liked it.
He's releasing like another like project with like his old partner. I think it's A-OK now. Is his name.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But at the time it was just like Ryan or something. I think it was a Ryan. I think it's another Ryan in here. And they're releasing a project. He also is putting out 500 limited copies of poems inspired by the album A Letter to My Younger Self. Like he wrote poetry after making it and releasing it. So he's like, I'm putting out these copies, and it's like limited editions. That's super cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
We are now firmly in my space now, where like every album after like this one starts my like every album I like.
Oh, we've been here for me, but it's just at this point it's like
every album from this point out I literally
it's like
loved.
it's so tight now. Like what's the quality level like?
All right, so my next album is Free Nationals by Free Nationals.
Let's go.
I really enjoyed listening to this. So I love the Free Nationals whenever they do things with Anderson .Paak, but I also enjoyed hearing them just kind of go out on their own and kind of work with with other artists just in general. Like they were seeing other people and it worked out very well. I enjoyed the T.I. song "Cut Me a Break" a lot. I enjoy hearing T.I. rap over things that you usually don't hear T.I. rap on, and this is not something that you would usually hear T.I. rap over. They gave us another song where they prove how much better than you Jid is at rapping, or JID is at rapping than you, because just he bodied everybody on the planet on site. Also, I really have to mention the instrumental version of this album, which I think if they had released just by itself, I think it would have been ranked just as high, because it's so good. And I enjoy the posthumous Mac Miller feature always, because Mac Miller was a gift. But yeah, I really like this. I know we've talked about it before, so I don't want to say too much more, but I really enjoyed this. I listened to this quite a lot. I'm probably going to get, this is one I'm probably going to find on vinyl.
Oh, 100%. Oh, yeah.
It's really good.
All right. My number 12 is Chromatica by Lady Gaga. So this is my favorite album she's ever put out. For a nostalgia factor, I would say Monster, because who didn't bop to Monster in middle school? Or is it Monster, or is it what is it? The Fame Monster. That's what it's called.
Fame Monster.
Fame Monster, man. Ooh, great album. But in reality, if I listen to that versus this, I'd be like, not Chromatica. This was such an interesting. Do you disagree with me?
Yeah, but that's a different we can talk. We can have a Gaga episode later.
The Fame Monster is my second, but Chromatica is my favorite. Just because like this era was so cool and interesting. I mean, looking at this cover art is amazing. The sound that she explored, it's kind of like a revisit to her previous work, because Joanne was very, very different for her sound, because it was like art pop Joanne, and then this. And that 7-year gap of not doing quote unquote pop or really hyped up sounding music. It was very interesting to see her return to that, but expand on it into a new way, getting Blood Pop to come and basically do all of the production, getting people who are really, really good with making like EDM style beats. I thought was a really good idea for her. I love when an artist just brings in 2 or 3 producers and just says, hey, just go off and then I'll do the vocals. Cool. So that was impressive. Her songwriting was also really strong for me on this. I looked through the album notes that you can see on Spotify with it. It was very interesting to hear her talk about what each song kind of meant. This idea of like Chromatica being a world, but it's really supposed to be like currently now, like we are in Chromatica, like Chromatica's Earth and all that cool stuff. Features were wild because she had Ariana Grande, and Rain on Me slaps. It's such a freaking slapper, man. I remember this came out and I was like, oh, I'm feeling my bad bitch vibes come out. Then Blackpink, like full on K-pop group, like just once again, bad bitch vibes, like just all females just killing it. And then Elton John.
Sir Elton John
on Sign from Above.
That's crazy.
It's so crazy. So for only 3 features, I felt that they were all necessary. Could I have used 1 or 2 more? Yes, but I also felt like her work with her producers on this album, kind of a la Weekend, was essentially a feature, because the sound was so different. I was just really impressed by this body of work. It really flows well for me, and it's the perfect length, 16 tracks, 43 minutes. I gave it a 9.4. I was just really impressed by it, and I've gone back to it, and it makes me miss concerts, because I can only imagine if this goes on tour, I would just be in the pit with like Alex Freeman, just like going off. Like it would just be so fun to just be at a show for this album.
Oh, for sure.
And also just Lady Gaga, just mad respect. Just she's an OG. I love Gaga. Like
Gaga has been goated.
Loved her and she's been goated, man. Like after I saw A Star Is Born, I was like, she's a goat. Like that's a goat on that screen right there with Bradley Cooper.
I've not seen that movie.
It's very good.
Pause.
It's emotional.
Leave this podcast and go watch it, because it's so good. That was my favorite movie of 2019.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, or whatever year it came out. Oh, 2018. Sorry. 2018. And the soundtrack was my like number 15 or something for that year of albums.
Okay.
Soundtrack crazy. But yeah,
Interesting.
that's a good movie, dude.
We got
Cool.
Sage Mode Dave Chappelle in that movie.
Oh,
Yeah, man.
interesting.
It's so good. So
Interesting.
good. Also, Anthony Ramos, shout out.
Oh yeah, but he's
That's
in that
odd.
movie.
I know.
forgot.
You
Yeah.
forget if you forget Anthony Ramos is in it. Like, there's so many pieces of that film that I'm just like, so good.
Okay. All right. So my number 11 to round out this episode is a return to Secession by
Yeesh.
Aha and starring Go. Aha is my favorite rapper, is my favorite CHH artist, is my second favorite artist, period, of all time.
Wow.
I mean,
Well earned though.
I mean, like, it's just like with John being number one, like there's literally no like question right now. Especially, he was my most listened to artist on Spotify Wrapped this year.
Same.
Like this album plus 180, which we'll talk about later, just were so like I just wanted to listen to them over and over and over and over again, which isn't common for a lot of albums. This one, perfect length, perfect flow. It's upbeat enough to keep you really interested the whole time. We talked, like Ryan mentioned, a lot of the like heavy hitting songs, like with Milk and Honey, and Who. No Limit was the first track that came off because they did a little video and they dropped that one song and like everybody thought that was it, and then they just dropped the album out of nowhere right afterward.
Yeah.
It was honestly so crazy that they did that. And I love shock drops. I always will, just because I like having a bunch of new music to listen to immediately without having to wait for it, which is why I like Taylor Swift's recent stuff so much. But like, there is not a bad song on this thing. Like, there is not a bad song. Front to back, everything is good. Everything, the production on all of them is crazy. I think that I mentioned it earlier, but their chemistry together is nuts. They just know each other so well. They work really well together. Add in Tony Richard to that. All three of them work really well together. They've done stuff in the past together. And they've all featured on each other's songs here and there. But gosh, like, I don't know what else to say. Still Saucy is my favorite song.
Okay. I was gonna ask that.
Yeah, Still Saucy is my favorite song just because I like Sad Aha.
Yep. That's a vibe.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, I can't remember what album it was, and he started singing on him. Like when he dropped Vegeta, because Vegeta was the first time that he did Sad Boy singing, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy!" Like that was the thing that kind of blew him up, and so, I don't even know what else to say about this because, like, honestly, Christian hip, CHH Christian hip hop has this really bad like reputation as being holier than thou and like all this other stuff. Like that's what Lecrae's reputation used to be. That's what even Andy's reputation was for a while. A lot of the older people who came from the beginnings of the genre, looking at even further back, like Flame and Derek Minor, R. Swift, like all these other people, like they didn't give off that persona themselves, but that was what was given to the music by the rap community outside of it.
Yeah.
And I think that like this generation of artists being led by Aha, RG, and like in
Gavi,
Gavi, and then in the Latin space like Tommy Royale, like those people are like really starting to break down those barriers because like this is not a CHH album. It isn't. No. But it is because of who the people are. And so like none of the topics, like they mention it every now and again, but it's not like it's church music, so to speak. This is just good hip hop. Like it just is. And I think like going forward, I think that barrier is only going to get broken further by these same artists, and I'm really interested to see, provided they put out music, because Aha be putting out music like once every 2 years.
But we got a couple projects from him.
I mean, we have, but like now what? Like, you know what I mean? Which I know that like artists get frustrated with that. It's like they put out new music and then like 3 days later, everybody's like, all right, when's the next one? Like,
Yeah.
that's a frustrating thing about
Yeah.
music. Like, I know that that's frustrating, but like, that's what it would. But that means you're doing a good job in my mind. Like, as an artist, like if somebody, like if I put something out and then immediately people are like, oh my gosh, I loved it, I want more. Like, that would mean that they liked what I already did.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that he's only going to gain popularity and followers, and therefore, hopefully, we'll put out more music. I need a Free Barabbas remaster. I'll take that on streaming.
Fact.
Same.
Yeah. Fire.
All right, so my next album is what I believe to be the best pure R&B album to come out this year, and that is The Album by Tiana Taylor.
It's literally called The Album.
The album.
It is so good. Like I know I say that a lot, and I'm going to continue to say that for the rest of this series, but this album is just pure butter. Like it is so good from start to finish. All of the features are well placed and fit the energy and the vibe that needs to happen. It's the first time I've ever heard Missy Elliott and Future on a song together,
right?
and it
I was
just
gonna
makes me
say,
so happy.
Yeah.
The way she connects with her husband on Wake Up Love, who's a Mon Shepherd, former NBA player, is incredible. She got Eric Badu, Big Sean, great song actually. And then it ends with like a
Miss
little
Lauryn
speech from
Hill.
Lauryn Hill, which is
Ooh.
incredible.
Ooh.
But definitely listen to this if you're just trying to find something that is R&B, because it is just pure R&B, and it deserved so much more than what it got at the Grammys for sure. I just think in her cipher from the BET Awards this year, with Erykah Badu and Rhapsody, and she just like held her own and she had some bars for people, and it was great. She's so talented, and it was amazing. And more people need to listen to this. So definitely go run those numbers up on the album if you're just having a night.
When you say pure R&B, like, do you mean like the whole album is R&B leaning, or like the sound of R&B that she's doing is like a specific kind?
The whole album, it's both.
Okay.
Like it is R&B leaning, and also it is just like rhythm and blues. Like it is just
like
low and sexy.
Like pre-Weekend, like 2000 through 2011 R&B.
Like kind of it's hard. It's kind of like not like the Charlie like early Erykah Badu, like your Charlie Wilson, like your old like and I can't talk about him because he's a bad person.
R. Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Like he's a terrible person.
Yes.
And he should fuck him, and he should never get out of jail, and he should be in jail forever and ever, never, 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 never. But dude is undeniably the best at R&B to ever do it. And it's like, this is up there. Like this album is so good. It doesn't have like an I Believe I Can Fly on it, but I feel like she could write one tomorrow if she so desired.
I know exactly.
It's so good.
What you mean now. Okay. I need to listen to that because I had it on my like playlist. I just didn't get around to it. But it, from a packaging conceptual standpoint, I was very interested in it.
It's very good. Also, Kalani is on it.
It's Kalani. Like,
yeah, and her and Kalani have chemistry that is unbelievable.
I'm sure.
It's a little frightening.
I'm gonna hit it up.
Please do.
All right, my number 11 to close out this episode of Wrapped is a revisit to Detroit 2 by Big Sean. I'm wearing the T-shirt as we speak now. It's like a legitimate airbrush T-shirt. Like it's that real. Got the real merch for the episode. But man, all right. So here's the thing. 2 points. One, in 2017, Big Sean released an album called I Decided, and that changed everything. In my opinion, of his career because that album blew me away. Like, I remember putting it on and I was like, it's whatever. I had a candle going. It was raining. It was dark. It was like 9 o'clock at night in my college dorm room. And I remember crying to that album the first time I heard it because it was so good. He talked about suicide. It was really sad. And I was like, hold up, wait, Big Sean can make albums? This is weird. This is different. That's what I think all of y'all were trying to say, like, about him as we've led up to this, and it was on both of your lists about, like, this came kind of out of nowhere with Detroit 2. And I think Detroit 2, like, it's a building block on top of I Decided, because I Decided got me geeked up about him. And then he was like, he went away for like 3 years. And I was like, where's that next album at, though? And then he was talking about it all of last year. It was actually supposed to come out in March before he played Coachella. That didn't happen because COVID. So he held it and just kept going back to the stew over and over. And then eventually came out in September. This whole thing is made with Hit Boy as his, like, the executive producer. He does most of the beats on it. Hit Boy does not miss, as I've already mentioned on this episode. Hit Boy is my producer of the year for 2020. Like, the things he did with Nas, the things he did with this album, the things that he rapped. He did a rap song in which he rapped on it. Like, it just incredible, talented producer. So his collaboration with Big Sean on this really impressed me. And I remember the track list dropping and I was like, this is long. 21 tracks in an hour and 11 minutes. I don't know, Chief. But honestly, it kept me the whole way. Similar to the Manic album, he breaks up each of the 3 acts with an interlude speech by either Dave Chappelle, Lauryn Hill, or the GOAT, Stevie Wonder. Like,
Right?
so cool. And I think a lot of this, my ranking, I really love this album. I think a lot of this too, like, for me, speaks highly to me as a person because I was born in Detroit. I know when he talks about that Detroit mentality, I know exactly what he's talking about because that's my family. Like, it just is that Detroit mentality. So when I hear this, when I hear like the 3 people I mentioned talk about Detroit, I'm like, yes, I know exactly what these people are talking about. And so for me, like, it touches like a part of my heart, I think, when I listen to it, and like just seeing like the mad respect, like the Friday Night Cypher, only Detroit artists, like just seeing that is so like cool to me because we've had Big Sean, we've had Royce, we've had Eminem, but there's like a bunch of other people popping out of there, from Saya Baby to Cash Doll to 42 Doug. Like, it's a really impressive music scene out there. So for me, this album hits on a spiritual part of my heart, but I also think that it's just an incredible body of work. Lucky Me is my favorite song on this album. It is my favorite flow change of all of 2020, and it is in the top 5 songs for me of 2020. Not my number one, but top 5 for me. So go listen to Lucky
number 1
Me.
song?
Skull by Gavi. That's my number 1. As we mentioned, we talked about Skull earlier briefly. We'll talk about it again. But Lucky Me is incredible. There's also a lot of other incredible things just on this album, including a posthumous Nipsey Hussle feature. So shout out the GOAT. Yeah, but that's it. That's my last one to close out this episode.
It's nice. And I like the merch touch.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm gonna try to do that for the last episode too. Just you wait.
Gosh.
Thank you for listening to Wrapped. You can listen to every album we've included in our top 50 lists by visiting our Spotify account from the link on our website and checking out our playlist tied to each host. Remember, you can get behind the scenes and additional content by following us on social media via Instagram at Wrapped Podcast or Twitter at Podcast Wrapped, or email us musical suggestions via wrappedpodcast@gmail.com. You can view our videos on YouTube or listen to episodes on any music or podcast player. Lastly, Wrapped is hosted by Colton Hinderliter, Ryan Key, and Adam Stansel, with show artwork by Autumn Salazar. See you all next time on Wrapped.